20,000 graduates of federal government's Jubilee Fellows program deployed for internship and mentorship.
No matter what you can say about the challenges, it is in those challenges that people make the greatest breakthroughs of all.
Federal government reiterates commitment to promoting free and viral media practice.
We will allow every social media platform to spread the truth and everything that we do.
INEC offices in Ogun and Osun states set ablaze by unidentified persons.
Good morning, Nigeria. Today we shall focus on attacks on INEC offices plus United Nations World Tourism Organization 2022 conference.
I'm sure it's no longer news that Nigeria will be hosting maiden United Nations World Tourism Organization, that's UNWTO conference, cultural tourism and creative industry to be held in Lagos.
Well, at the 65th United Nations World Tourism Organization's Commission for Africa meeting in Arusha, Tanzania last month, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed extended invitation to all UNWTO member states to the first ever global conference on tourism, culture, and the creative industry to be held in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial nerve center, and this will be from the 14th through the 16th of November 2022.
And let's also remind you that our President, Muhammadu Buhari, had also assured all relevant stakeholders and participants of the warmth and hospitality of the people of Nigeria, noting that rapid growth of Nigeria's film, fashion, music, and ICT sectors, as well as increase in international appeal and acceptance, of course, will continue to support government to devote more resources to that sector.
Well, among other initiatives, the minister recalled that the creative industry financing initiative established by the administration, that's to say president, of course, and managed by the Central Bank of Nigeria in collaboration with the Bankers Committee, had provided single-digit financing to many young Nigerians in the fields of fashion, film, music, culture, and information technology, and therefore how all of this crystallize will form part of our conversation segment today.
Okay, so away from that, as electioneering campaigns, of course, gain momentum, INEC offices in Abuja South local government area has been attacked and set ablaze on Thursday morning. Confirming the incident, INEC National Commissioner for Information Festus Okoye notes that the attack was carried out by unidentified persons that overpowered the security personnel on duty and went ahead to set the building ablaze.
Similarly, another INEC office, this time in Ede, South local government area of Osun State, was also attacked and razed on the same Thursday. Now, unidentified persons reportedly stormed the building and set a portion of it on fire.
Well, since 2021, we've seen more of such incidents across the country, attacks, fire on INEC facilities. And you may want to ask why the frequent attacks on INEC offices specifically as the 2023 election drew nearer. Now, you also would want to know who those tagged as unidentified persons or unknown gunmen are, and what exactly is or are the motives behind these attacks, Kingsley?
Well, yeah, those are pertinent questions to raise. For a pretty long while, the attacks were more common in the southeastern part of the country. There are all kinds of claims as to who might have been responsible. Now we are seeing a shift to the southwest of the country, and the pertinent questions there that you have asked, what does this mean, and what is the backup that INEC has for some of its equipment, facilities, and other data bearing machines, or perhaps also PVCs that may have been destroyed in these arson attacks. So that will be our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today, and we thank you for tuning in to Good Morning Nigeria this Friday. My name is Kingsley Osadolo, and I welcome you to the program.
I am Claire Adilabu Abdul Razak, as we say, thank God it's Friday. Welcome to the program Good Morning Nigeria. Of course, those are the topics we will be looking at in the course of our program. For now, Musba Dan Wahab is in the newsroom where he is seated to bring us highlight of the morning news. Musba.
Very good morning, Claire and Kingsley. Welcome to the news. 20,000 young men and women who graduated under the Jubilee Fellows Program of the federal government have been deployed for internship and mentorship program in reputable organizations that have volunteered to partner government in the move towards addressing unemployment.
It is challenging to have the opportunity lying there somewhere, and you've got to pick up those opportunities. And you don't even have to be the entrepreneur to be a software. You can be the great software engineer. You can be the great administrator or the manager of men and material. Every day presents that great opportunity. It's time for you to seize the moment and achieve your own destinies.
With the different challenges in the West African sub-region, including the undemocratic takeover of governments, the economic community of West African states has done well, rising to the occasion. And for this, ECOWAS ought to be proud. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo expressed this view while receiving a delegation of the ECOWAS Commission led by its new president, Omar Aliyu Toure, at the presidential villa, Abuja. He noted that ECOWAS has been dealing with the challenges of upholding democracy, ensuring peace, security, and maintaining stability in the region. He noted that the hard work of ECOWAS is seen in the transitions going on in different countries that have experienced coups and the seriousness with which the rest of the world takes what ECOWAS says. Speaking on the objectives that guide the activities of ECOWAS, Vice President Osinbajo stated that the West African region share the same objectives of shared prosperity, deeper integration, peace and security, inclusive and sustainable development. Regarding ECOWAS engagements on a global stage, Professor Osinbajo stated that it is imperative to reach President Muhammadu Buhari's scorecard 2015 to 2023, which featured Aviation Minister Hadi Sirika.
Good news. This is a mission and hate speech. New mission will allow every social media platform to turn this into anarchy. Deputy Nigeria.
So under Buhari, we have certified our airports for the first time in Nigeria. First time.
The Nigerian police working in synergy with other security agencies has contributed in a small measure towards ensuring that there is adequate protection of lives and property in the country. The implementation of a holistic police reform program is also an added impetus to the effective and efficient way to policing, which has yielded results. The Inspector General of Police Usman Alkali Baba speaks on these achievements at repositioning the police when efficient at the 57th session of Executive Press Briefing organized by the Presidential Communications Team.
Activities of unpatriotic elements and non-state actors who engage in various criminal activities around the country. However, the Nigerian police is actively collating intelligence and effectively subduing elements responsible for security threats within the country.
Kaduna State government has described a purported story making rounds that there was an attack on Kaduna-Abuja highway as a tissue of lies manufactured by merchants of conflict. The state government accused those behind the rumor for creating unnecessary alarm and creating tension. A statement by the State Commissioner of Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arwan, said government is in constant touch with security agencies responsible for securing not only Kaduna-Abuja corridor, but the state in general. The statement further said government is not denying security challenges, but regret how some disgruntled elements are fabricating stories for their selfish end. INEC office in Abuja South, the local government area, has been attacked and set ablaze. Statement by INEC National Commissioner for Information, Festus Okoye, notes that the attack was carried out by unidentified persons that overpowered the security personnel on duty and set the entire building ablaze. The main building and all the Commission's movable assets in the office were destroyed. Materials affected include 904 ballot boxes, 29 vote cubicles, 13 megaphones, 57 election bags, 8 electric power generators, and 65,699 uncollected permanent voters cards, PVCs. Similarly, the office of INEC in the South local government area of Osun State was attacked and set ablaze. The incident occurred when some unidentified persons attacked the building and set a portion of it ablaze. But fortunately, the damage was limited to a section of a building and only some furniture items were destroyed. And that concludes the news on the program. We have more for you in the course of the day. For now, we're taking a break, after which the program Good Morning Nigeria will continue with Claire and Kinsley.
This lesson beyond forever to create a calm and peaceful sleep.
Removes mosquitoes so you can sleep a calm and peaceful sleep. Good night, Electric.
Critical military objectives of total defeat of the terrorists in the northeast is already been achieved. Synchronized group and air operations have continued to inflict huge casualties on the terrorists, and they have been forcing many of them, including their commanders and emirs, to surrender in droves with members of their families. Whilst areas where terrorists hitherto had just some freedom of actions are being cleared, and socio-economic life is gradually returning to the most parts of the northeast. As while internal displaced persons are now returning to their ancestral homes to start life all over in dignity under safe and more secure environment.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you? All Sundays and all Fridays, you are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message is from the National Orientation Agency.
Alright, welcome back. If you've just joined in, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of Nigerian Television Authority. An interesting item this morning on our business news is the story that electric planes will soon be tested. So I urge you to sit back and listen to as Kunle Adeyu tells us where and when that is scheduled to happen.
The clamor to end carbon emissions resurfaced on the sidelines of COP27 in Egypt. Latest on the progress made so far is the proposed testing of an electric aircraft by the United States of America, which is an improvement on electric vehicles being used by some countries. There is an appeal to advanced nations to support this cause, while the private sector is expected to be actively involved in these latest developments.
It's important to not just look at national policy. It's important to look at what's going on subnationally. It's important to look at what's going on in terms of what our businesses are doing. There was very little publicity when all of the major automobile manufacturers announced a date when they're out of internal combustion engines. That's a huge shift. It was not driven by government policy. I live in Seattle. Boeing is testing electric airplanes. There's enormous change that's going on, and I think we need to celebrate the advances that we've made, knowing that there's a lot more that needs to be done, and recognizing we're in the process of transformation. And yes, we are working to get the science into policy making, but also into the hands of the communities and the businesses that are making a difference already.
And quickly to the details of Thursday's tradings on the floor of the exchange. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyu.
Thank you very much for the business package on Good Morning Nigeria. Up next, newspaper review. All right, we have a couple of papers with us this morning, the New Telegraph and the Daily Trust. Let's begin by taking a look at the stories on the front page of the New Telegraph newspaper. CBN Naira redesign aimed at tackling counterfeiting. And of course, that's the emphasis of the reasons that we earlier provided. Tackle counterfeiting as well as tackle hoarding of the national currency. There's a write-up to that headline, convert lower denomination to coins. And that's according to the LCCI, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And below the nameplate, it says, flood, IDP's toll rises to 38,000 in Delta, 22 deaths recorded. Federal government and Korean agencies unveil flood-tolerant rice varieties. I'm just wondering, when you say IDP toll rises to 38,000, the impression that that headline creates is that 38,000 IDPs have died. IDP toll. The word toll comes from the expression, from whom the bell tolls. For whom the bell tolls is usually a funeral where you have the bell pealing to say that you're wishing the departed journey mercies to the great beyond. So IDP's toll couldn't be IDP's toll. Just say the IDP numbers, IDPs rise to 38,000 in Delta, 22 deaths recorded. So strike up that toll. Alleged stash funds, that's the next headline there. Search my houses, Matawale tells EFCC. Content, court sets aside Bauer's conviction. Bauer is the chairman of the EFCC, and earlier in the week he was convicted of contempt of court. This was, of course, the conviction ex officio. That namely, the EFCC, according to the court, had neglected to refuse to obey a court order directing the EFCC to release a Range Rover sport vehicle as well as 40 million naira belonging to a former director of operations of one of the services who was charged for graft offenses. Of course, the EFCC had indicated once that conviction was announced that committal to Kuje prison until he purged himself. I did say earlier in the week that contempt of court is one of the most serious offenses in the administration of justice. But the EFCC did issue a statement to say, one, they were going to, of course, appeal that decision, and secondly, that they had, in fact, commenced the process of complying with the court order, including the release of the vehicle. So yesterday, there's another court decision setting aside the conviction for contempt because the EFCC showed through affidavit as well as their internal correspondence that one, the Range Rover Sport had been returned to the former director of operations, and that the process for the refund of the 40 million naira had actually started, and the internal memos of the AFCC indicated that, so there was no contempt as it were. Reps to revisit diaspora voting bill resume plenary on Monday. Soludo presents 260 billion naira budget to Anambra Assembly, and WINFAC insists Cross River State receives stabilization fund. We have details inside. Attacks, that's the kicker. INEC calls for emergency security meeting today. Of course, we're discussing that in our conversation segment. You have the details of the story inside the paper, along, of course, with the riders. That's it loses building, that's INEC losing the building, and voter register on display November 12th to 25th nationwide, and soft copy on website. Large numbers of invalid voter cards in Bayelsa. Voter apathy mars Niger local government polls. And Inspector General of Police orders posting of CPs, that's Commissioners of Police, to 8 states and formations. Atiku foresees quick resolution of crisis with UK and others. Says APC can survive after 2023 polls. Only God can stop Tinubu and Shetima. That's according to the chairman of the APC, Adamo. NUC issues a operational license to University of Elisha. Says 94% of students in public varsities. Media holds roundtable on industry regulation. I intend turning people's minds from politics through agriculture. That's my details on page 4. US and UK terror alert. Arrested suspects will be prosecuted. That's according to the IGP. Explains why police negotiate with kidnappers. Says some rescued Chibok girls making moves to return to terrorists. That would be, of course, a validation one more time of the Stockholm Syndrome. Highly processed foods can be addictive, according to a study.
Well, Kingsley, thank you. Basically all the stories that you've read from your paper, it's also what I have on the front page of the Daily Trust. So I won't just go deep, I'll just read out how Daily Trust cast its own version. The lead story, attacks, INEC holds emergency meeting today, and it has 3 riders to that story. Records 47 incidents in 33 months, and hoodlums touch Ogun Osho officers. IGP probes attack on Atiku's convoy. And of course the other stories are trending on the front page, Kingsley had also mentioned earlier. But dollar crashes to 730 naira at parallel market is a major story, and it's an interesting one. The details of that is on page 23, and I'll just read out first of all that this story, this crash is being attributed to scarcity of the naira. They said that there's no naira in the system. That's according to one currency dealer in Lagos, speaking with the Daily Trust correspondent. So of course, Kingsley, we saw that the dollar went as high as 850 to the naira immediately the redesigning of the naira was announced, and everyone was afraid. But now,
we had a conversation on this subject matter, and I recall the chairman of the Association of Bureau de Change Operators, Dr. Is our regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria. He did say that what we were seeing there was a bubble. Okay. Dr. Gwadabe said that it was a bubble. That what we were seeing were just speculative attacks, and the people were likely to run into trouble. Perhaps more trouble lies ahead in January, because what are you going to do? And I think that for the average citizen, the less headache you have over the exchange rate of the naira, the better for you. If you don't have daily transactions with Forex or occasional transactions with Forex, what's your business? Everyone is struggling to go and put some dollar note in their pockets. But those, of course, who are trading in everyday items, you are buying and selling everyday items, just go back to a normal business. The farmer who is producing food crops or cash crops, he doesn't have that need. So it is the speculators who are seeking to reap from where they didn't sow that, of course, have been hit. But the key thing is to maintain the momentum, and more particularly, as Abunu Gwadabe suggested when we had that conversation sometime last week or so, I believe, to say, look, how do you deal with those who are operating in the governed spaces of the Forex market?
Just also add that, or remind our viewers that January 31st, next year, of course, is the deadline when these naira notes to be redesigned will cease to be legal tender. But Kingsley, you talked about something about processed foods. Yes. So, and this also reminds me that the prices of food items in the market, of course, we all know what the cost of food items in the market are. And it's at times like this that we now begin to support our own indigenous manufacturers. And this takes me to Erisco. Erisco is, of course, on the Daily Trust this morning. It's time to really promote what they do by way of incentives, by way of also patronizing locally manufactured goods. I have since ceased from buying foreign tomatoes.
Well, of course. I mean, there's nothing like Nigerian rice versus imported rice that had spent nearly a decade in the silos before they were packed shipped off to Nigeria. And when you have an industrialist like Risco, who is relentless in his commitment to the Nigerian project as well as growing the economy, of course they will require all kinds of encouragement, and that encouragement comes one through patronage of their products, and more importantly, as Risco himself always says, is to avoid dumping. If the fiscal authorities can continue to work on that, avoid dumping, then we give more room for the local manufacturers to blossom, because then they can take advantage of economies of scale. There is a story that is not on the front pages of the papers that we have this morning, but I read it because yesterday the Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, did a briefing on the activities and milestones of the Ministry of Aviation. One of the issues that I thought was a bit curious had to do with the national carrier, the national airline, which is being refloated. And I was saying to myself, because two things that he said. Said one, that when they advertised for expression of interest, it was only Ethiopian Airlines that showed interest. And secondly, that they went round the major airlines and others who could be, of course, helpers as well as joiners in the formation or in the operation of the national airline, and that there were no responses. What does that tell us?
I think it's something that we really need to discuss, and hopefully maybe someday we will have the Minister of Aviation here in the studio on Good Morning Nigeria. But that's what we can take on our newspaper review for today. Don't go away. We'll start off our conversation right now.
The security challenges we have faced as a government have been daunting, from terrorism to banditry, to kidnapping, to separatist violence, to crude oil theft, to armed robbery and sundry crimes. It's undoubtedly the greatest challenge to the peace and security of our great country since the Civil War of 1967 to 1970. It's a kind of challenge that would have overwhelmed many nations. But thanks to the purposeful leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, we can say, I want to repeat, that the worst is over, and peace and security are gradually returning to the land.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The center is purposely established in order to provide these services that are examinations, medical examinations and investigations that were not provided for in Kano as well as the entire Northwest region. It's equipped with modern technological equipment in terms of radiological services. We have MRI 1.5 Tesla, we have digital X-ray as well as 4D ultrasound equipment. The importance of the center cannot be overemphasized. Just within 1 year, the center attended to thousands and numerous patients as well as medical examinations. NKDC is established in order also to provide these healthcare facilities as a discounted price.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or be. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who's a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
All right, welcome back, and it's time for us to start our conversation. And Kinsley has the opening background. Kinsley.
All right, let's listen to our correspondent, Ekene Undule, who's giving us the background on attacks on INEC offices.
It is about 3 months to the 2023 general elections, and political activities are gearing up ahead of the polls. Rallies, campaigns and civil engagements have occupied the media spaces, with politicians traversing the states to sell their manifestos to the electorate. However, one aspect of the season that has become a source of concern for political observers is the increasing spate of violence, which has seen political campaign trains come under attack by thugs, as was recently witnessed in Borno, Kaduna and Zamfara states. The attacks are not just on opposition parties, as the electoral umpire INEC is not spared from the activities of hoodlums. The simultaneous attacks on INEC offices in Osun and Ogun states on Thursday is the most recent in a series of attacks on INEC facilities. A statement from INEC disclosed that in Ogun State, the unidentified persons overpowered security personnel at the Abuja South Local Government Office and set the entire building on fire. Items destroyed in the inferno include 904 ballot boxes, 29 voting cubicles, 65,699 uncollected permanent voters' cards. It was a similar situation in Osun State, where a part of INEC office in Ede South local government area was also set ablaze. This time, only some furniture items were destroyed. So far, no arrest has been made in connection with the crimes, but political observers are calling attention to the clear and present danger facing the 2023 elections. Records show that in the past 3 years, more than 40 INEC offices have been attacked in various locations across the country. What is the response of INEC to the series of attacks on its facilities? What is the fate of electorates whose permanent voters' cards were destroyed in the Ogun State inferno? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be providing answers to these and other questions.
Ekene Ndele there, giving us an insight into the content of our conversation this morning. And of course, we are looking at attack on INEC offices, and the latest being the attacks on the INEC office in Abeokuta South and Ede in Ogun and Osun states. Let me quickly introduce our guests, and they're all seated here in the studio. First, Nick Dezang, he's former Director, Voter Education and Publicity, INEC. We're glad to have you as always. Tired but not tired. Also here with us this morning to discuss this matter, Jide Ojo, Public Affairs Analyst, and I call him in-house analyst. Today.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Same here.
And we have Wing Commander Musa Salmanu, retired, Development, Peace and Security expert. He also is with us here in the studio. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians, and thank you for having me.
Right.
All right, gentlemen, we're glad to have you with us this morning. Let's begin just by trying to understand what's happening. For the most part, attacks on INEC offices were more common in the southeastern part of the country. And now we have seen a shift, as it were, to INEC offices in the southwest. Beginning with Wing Commander Salmanu, can you attempt to get into the minds of these arsonists and what they tried to achieve in the past and what they may be seeking to achieve on this occasion?
Thank you so much. Just like you call them arsonists, so first there is the part of criminality. Criminality in the sense that they are criminals and wants to share out of share. We can do it, we can destroy these things and get away with them, because like your report said, where are the people, how many people have been caught in the past, how many have been prosecuted, or how many are serving jail times, and so on and so forth. Even if there is that, it's not made public, and it's important because of deterrence. Now the second part is sabotage, and the fact that so it might seem uncoordinated, but there is coordination in that non-coordination or lack of coordination, in the sense that there is pattern to this. It starts with perhaps when you look at it in the southeast, as they said, started, but it's getting away from there gradually to other parts of Nigeria, and who knows, if it's not curtailed, it might be everywhere or engulf all parts of the country. As at last count, about 19 states have been attacked, or INEC premises have been attacked, either burnt or destroyed or vandalized, and so on and so forth. And when you look at what is happening, they go to the critical, because the PVC or the equipments, that the INEC equipments here are very important, and those are the things that are attacked. So it's attacking also the credibility of the process or the election itself. So there's a target. Let's discredit the entire process. Let us make INEC not able to conduct this election, and there is going to, so it sets the groundwork for whatever comes later on, which could escalate to conflict or to post-election violence, or to a kind of saying that this discredit the whole process. But the entire thing is that it's heading towards making the process not credible, or ensuring that the whole election is not able to be conducted. When that happens, you know the consequences. You know that that's going to show that government was not able or is not able to conduct this election, and therefore the process will not be credible.
Let's look at the motive. At the time when the attack was concentrated, in the southeast and some part of the south, we had a different, interpretation of the motives and all that. Now we've seen a scaling down to the southwest. would you, if we disaggregate the motives, would you say is there a connection? Is there a nexus?
Well, you see, there's a nexus in the sense that the intent, or at the end of the day, the motive might be slightly different and the circumstances slightly different. But if you look at the entire picture, the whole idea is that you discredit the process. Now, in the southeast, or I don't want to look at maybe particular incidents, but if you look at the context when those things happened, you find out that non-state actors were contesting. Usually it's contest. Government, you want to discredit what government can do. You want to show that government is incapable, one, of protecting even its critical infrastructure. What government says is important, government cannot protect that. So when those attacks happen and they are carried out successfully, they encourage others to do that. And if there is any breakdown of law and order in anywhere, the first thing that those people do is to attack such institutions, government institutions. That's why the need for, in terms of citing, even where you cite those government institutions, is very important. Where the kind of security that you provide to such institutions, and the kind of importance that is given to them because of what the impression they give, not only because they're destroyed, but it sends a message out there. Government says that election is very important and is critical, yet here are people that are undermining that, and because they get away with it, if it's done in the southeast, there's no much consequence. Of course, it will be done in the south or southwest, and I tell you, if it is not curtailed, it's going to go up everywhere. As we run towards 2023.
Sorry, just a follow-up before we escalate the conversation. If you look at the perpetrators in the southeast, they were identified as non-state actors. Those that carried out the incident at Abuja South and Ede were described as hoodlums. And if you take note of what they took away, 9 ballot boxes, voting cubicles, megaphones, electric power generators, and election bags, and so on. Do you think that this could have been politically motivated? In
all this, generally you can't take away politics from all this. But I would want to look at it more from the safety and security part of it, in the sense that even if politicians, if it is politics, if politicians are aggrieved or want to plan something, they do that because, or they go this way because they can, or because they feel they can get away with it. So it also asks that what is the security that is provided, physical security therefore, that is provided when such critical equipment or critical things that for conduct of election are there. What arrangement is made by the body, that's INEC itself, to ensure that when hoodlums, as we call them, come in, they are able to, there's deterrence, there's that you are able to curtail that. If they're able to come, attack that premises, burn what they can burn, destroy what they can, and cut away with those and get away with them. So it shows that either at the point there was no adequate provision of security, and there is no even adequate arrangement for response. Because I didn't hear that some of them have been caught and those items retrieved.
All right, thank you very much, Wing Commander Salman. I want to come to Jideojo. Jideojo, we're still trying to interrogate the likely motive of these arsonists and sundry vandals on INEC properties and facilities. Wing Commander Salmano took a general view of it that this would be as part of the lead-up to the 2023 elections. But I want us to take a step back and look, for instance, at what happened in the southeast. The various attacks on INEC offices did not occur because we were approaching the general election, with the exception of Anambra State, where we were going to have an off-cycle governorship election. So you had those attacks, no elections were in sight, except, as I said, with Anambra, and now you're having almost, as it were, a shift to the southwestern part of the country. What in your opinion, is shaping up?
What is shaping up is what has been alluded to by the first speaker. There is a grand attempt to forestall the holding of 2023 general elections. And INEC chairman has never been under any illusion that security will play a key role in the success or otherwise of 2023 elections. Everywhere there have been attack on INEC facility, it has always been a prelude to, it's a build-up to election. I recall that I've written a couple of opinions in my column in the Punch on this, and I recall that the one that happened in the southeast. First, two things happened there. It was an agitation over the release of the leader of the separatist movement, IPOB, getting released, or there will be no election. And they actually made that point, even with all the security paraphernalia in Ihiala. They said there will be no election here unless you release our man. And they made
Ihiala is in Anambra.
In Anambra State. So, and you know, Ihiala is also a border town to Imo State. So these people make political statement with their action. That look, okay, for instance, the entire Southeast now, I think up to today, because I recalled early in the year when I was in Enugu for a capacity building, we couldn't do anything on Monday because of the the sit-at-home that has been going on for about a year now. So that build up to November 6 election, the November 6, 2021 election was, one, to press for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Two, is also to say that they will not allow election to hold unless that is granted. So it was a more like freedom fighting sort of. Now this is about 2023 general elections, and we are. And also let me say this. Recall that during the continuous voter registration exercise in one particular local government in Imo, they shot and killed a registration officer and disrupted the entire registration process. All also gearing towards the fact that unless you release our man, we will not allow this process to go. So there is always a political statement behind some of this, because these people, whether you call them hoodlums, arsonists, vandals, they are not just randomly destroying stuff. Why did they go for election office? And this is compounding the cost of holding 2023 elections, because just few weeks ago, so I don't know the specific number, but some INEC local government offices were submerged in floods as a result of the flooding. For instance, the entire one that's in Bayelsa State, none was spared. And then, of course, in other places, because these local government offices are actually in detached environment. I have conducted a survey or a research at some point in the southwest, and we are looking for local government office of INEC. And you'll be surprised. Some of them are either within the local government of the secretariat or in isolated places. So you hire just one person as a night guard. It will definitely be overpowered. The bottom line is that arising from this, INEC needs to move all the sensitive and non-sensitive material to a centralized place and perhaps distribute on the eve of election, because I'm not sure with the build-up that we are seeing whether there will be a letdown unless there are preemptive actions that are taking place. The good news is that there is Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, which has over 20 security agencies as members. It is now for them to have a security architecture to protect the facilities, because already INEC has distributed many of the non-sensitive materials for 2023 elections. And this is an exercise that is costing the country
355 billion with the additional 50 billion being requested by INEC. So if INEC comes back to say we need additional 10 billion or 20 billion, people will say, oh, the cost of election, why is it swelling like Ijebu Gari? They will not know that INEC will have to fix, INEC will have to replace those materials and those offices that have been bought. And renovating those offices will cost huge sums of money.
Jide, why will even, put on hold the cost implications? Because Mr. Nick Dazen here would also let us know. And while we are still hazarding a guess as to what the motives for this can be, I'd like you to look at it from this perspective. Two states that have just experienced, the impact of these hoodlums, Ogun and Osun states, are states that are being governed by, leaders from opposition parties. And if you also look at the materials, yes, the materials that have been carted away, do you see any, would you say these are party supporters, playing out their thing in their own way?
Well, I do not belong to the security sector, but I think one should not be too hasty in coming to a conclusion that these are party supporters. Or I believe it's sponsored, but it's not necessarily that maybe disenchanted party supporters, because if you have issues, let's assume you have issues with your party primary, it is not to go and destroy INEC facility that will get you a redress. It's to go to court. And many of them have gone to court, which is why the Chief Judge of Federal High Court have had to set up task force to expeditiously look into all these grievances within a month, so that justice delayed will not be justice denied. So that is being addressed on one part. And if you have grounds against the party leaders, you go and burn your party secretariat, not to go and burn INEC office. I'm not saying they should do that, but the rational thing would be, if my party conducts a bad primary and my supported aspirant did not win, it should not be a vicarious of it. To go and burn INEC office. Party have secretariats. They can go and demonstrate there. They can go and I will not encourage the attack on the party secretariat, but it beggars believe that you will now say, unless you destroy INEC facilities, that's when your anger will be assuaged. Because I really don't know the point these arsonists are trying to make, beyond the fact that they just see this as a soft target and they want to make a pronouncement in the build-up to 2023 elections. So the security agents should be allowed to do their work. Let them see what they can pick up. But what worries me basically is that there have not been deterrence. There have not been proper investigation of past incidences to apprehend those who masterminded that and to prosecute them. So culture of impunity is gradually being built and making people to feel that, oh, you know what, nothing will happen. If in the past those who have attacked INEC facilities or personnel have been caught, paraded, and have their days in court and they are serving jail terms now, they will think twice. Even if somebody is giving you 10,000 to go and burn INEC office, you know that this is a national infrastructure and that if you get caught, you can go in for it. But if over the years, over 40, getting to 45 or close to 50 INEC offices have been raised, and no, to the best of my knowledge, no arrest have been made, no prosecution have been made, people have gotten away. I recall that even in the lead up to the 2019 election in Anambra, over 3,600 smart car readers, where the container where it was kept, they just raised it few days to election, targeted, because they know that that's what INEC will use for accreditation, and they just targeted the store, raised it, and no consequences have happened.
And these hoodlums, they seem to know where everything is stored.
Of course, now it's a public place. They go there. Maybe that's where they go. They've been. They know the geography of the place. They've been interacting with. And you never can also rule out enemy within. because there could be fifth columnists within the commission who are also aggrieved, which is why we should allow the police and other security agencies, intelligence community to weigh in. But arrests have to be made, prosecutions have to be made. Otherwise, this culture of impunity will continue to rise.
Joe, thank you very much for your responses. Just to indicate that Osun is still under the administration of Oyetola, who is an APC. Yes, and then Ogun State is not an opposition, if you may, on the national level. Ogun State is an APC state, and then they have typical issues. But again, this is trying to unravel the motive of these arsonists and sundry criminal elements. Let's bring in now Nick Dazan, former director of publicity and voter education of INEC. Nick, tell us something. How disruptive are these attacks on INEC operations, and how does INEC, one, count its costs and then seek to rejuvenate itself to carry out with its constitutional assignment?
I think, let me say that these attacks represent a clear and present danger to the 2023 elections. First of all, when you destroy offices, you also destroy sensitive and non-sensitive materials for the conduct of the elections. Secondly, you also scare the staff and the ad hoc staff who are likely going to conduct the elections. Thirdly, you put INEC's budget in disarray. Just like Jide said, 350 billion has been appropriated for INEC. And we know that the revenue that is accruing to government is dwindling. Now, the more INEC offices are attacked, the more INEC needs to renovate or to rebuild and to replace the equipment that have either been destroyed or stolen. The PVCs have to be replaced, the voting cubicles have to be replaced, the furniture, also have to be replaced, and so on. And in some cases, generators, Hilux vehicles running into hundreds of millions. The last time I asked, they said a Hilux vehicle goes for not less than 30 million. And when you are going to supply through contract, it means you add VAT, you add withholding tax, you add also the margin of profit for the contractor. So by the time you destroy 6, 8, 10 Hilux vehicles, you can then imagine, the amount you need to spend to replace them. And I think the situation is very serious. And I'm happy that INEC itself has called an emergency meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. And this committee is represented by all the security agencies. And these attacks speak to the need for the committee to review the strategy for protecting INEC assets. INEC assets are ubiquitous, they are all over the country, all the 774 local governments, all the 8,809 wards, all the state offices, INEC headquarters, zonal offices, the Electoral Institute, and so on. And because of this exposure, they are therefore vulnerable, particularly to people who have grievances, and they feel that they can make their mark if they attack INEC assets, which are soft targets. So I think it's important that the ICSES, the committee that will meet today, takes another critical look at the architecture for securing INEC offices. And I think that the commission also should up its game working with ICSES to protect these offices, because the more the offices are destroyed, the more costly it becomes to conduct the elections, and the more difficult uphill, in the sense that if you take, for example, what happened in Alhambra, so many of the ad hoc staff disappeared at the last minute as INEC was to conduct the elections, and there are implications. Because if you bring in people at the last minute who are not trained to conduct the elections,
there will be glitches. They won't be able to operate some of the new technologies that INEC is introducing, like the beavers, for example. So I think that we need to look at it as a threat to the conduct of the 2023 general elections and to the democracy project itself.
Let me ask you, while you're talking about threats to the process, fortunately, according to reports from INEC, the attack on Ede was just limited to a section of the building and not much was lost. But that on Abuja South, we heard that 65,000 yes, PVC, uncollected ones were carted away, in addition to some ballot boxes, voting cubicles, pad generators, and of course election bags. With just 100 few days to the election, what is the magnitude of drawback this will have on INEC?
Well, it may not seem big. It's something that INEC can replace. But the danger is if this is replicated over and over again, then it becomes very challenging for it to replace the PVCs. Already, INEC has the database of all the voters, so it's a matter of just going back and reprinting the PVCs. But also that costs money. So by the time you replicate these attacks, it then makes it difficult for INEC to really put together these PVCs or even the equipment that they need to conduct the elections.
And INEC is not able to replace the PVCs. What happens to those who own them? In terms of
that means they will be disenfranchised, and that also has deleterious effects on the elections itself. So that's the big picture we have to look at. That an attack on INEC is an attack on the elections, and an attack on the elections is an attack on democracy, and that is the seriousness with which the security agencies should view it. And I'm glad that when there was an uptick of violence leading up to the conduct of the Anambra governorship election, INEC called for the intervention of the presidency. They met the president, who now directed that the security agencies should take whatever measures they could to secure the process. And it happened, even though there were challenges. And we need to approach the elections with that kind of thinking.
I just want to make, what do we know about, as limited as we can disclose, what do we know about the operation of the Interagency Consultative Security Committee on Elections? I'm asking this question, does it just meet at the national level? Is there a version of it, say, at the state level?
Yes.
Is there a version of it at the local,
state and the local government levels?
Okay, so how effective are these committees at the local government level, at the state level, and also at the national level?
Actually, they are more effective at the national and state levels than at the local government levels. So we need to really cascade that to the local government level, right from now until after the conduct of the elections. And I think also we need all the members to bring to the table their different resources and talents in securing these offices.
All right, Wing Commander Salmano, let's look at the type of security that should be provided for INEC, because we hear that the hoodlums scaled the perimeter fence and came from the back and of course escaped with whatever they were able to get their hands on. Some people have advocated concentric type of cycle type of security. Is that too expensive for INEC to provide?
Well, if you look, like he rightly said, Mr. Nick said, the issue of INEC offices, they are everywhere in almost the entire local governments, sometimes up to certain wards and so on, starting from. So to provide that some level of security will be difficult, not impossible. However, what I will, where sometimes we make the mistake is right from the design phase or even selecting where we should keep the INEC office. For example, there's a question, why is it difficult to attack, say, banks, attack the central bank, and other offices that take security very seriously, that are scattered everywhere. Because right from the design, if a bank is going to be, when a bank acquires somewhere, they have to come do some kind of risk assessment, improve on the facilities to be in tune with what the level of security that is required. INEC has sensitive equipment that are kept in those buildings, so there must be sort in every office there should be that assessment. What are the peculiar risks that are there? What is the pattern of risks that has been happening, and to what level do they think they anticipate that could likely happen? Is there a need, therefore, to say have a strong room within the INEC offices where you can keep those sensitive materials and so that even because with security you cannot completely eliminate that threat. It will always be there. You just anticipate. You kind of say, if it happens, you kind of put scenarios. What are the things that we can do? So what I'll call on is that INEC should give more attention to that. Can you fortify those buildings? Can you? Then that's the structure itself. But also in terms of deterrence, keeping people away. What are those? Yes, it's a public building, it's a public space and so. But when you're talking, I'm looking at the INEC office in my local government where I register. Now you find out that you go there, the gate is not only opened, is broken. And like you said, you have one or two security guards that are perhaps not even trained on what is expected and so on. So it's just like every other office or government office in the local government. And so therefore and people know that there are critical materials that are there. So it's so easy to be a target. It's so easy to be attacked.
Well, Wing Commander Salmanu, thank you. But are we going to convert literally every public structure into a fortress? I mean, Nick Dazang appropriately captures it. An attack on INEC office, an attack on the election. It's an attack on democracy. But democracy is actually for the people, and there should be the right of ingress and egress into INEC offices at whatever size it is, because it's a symbol, as it were, of our democracy. So if you have business to transact there or inquiries to make, that's where you go to. But I note the suggestion you made, namely about either creating a strong room or having a bunker, but to turn into a fortress just might be a challenge. Well, let's look at the next question, Jide, about citizens' responsibility. Sometimes it's so challenging to assume that there are citizens around or who probably might have third-party information, reliable third-party information, that could lead to strive to bridge this gap of citizen lack of interest, just indifference to security threats, to say a sense of otherness. Okay, INEC building, it doesn't concern me. But at the end of the day, we know that it concerns all of us. Because if you look at the cost of replacement, such as Nick was speaking of, it comes from the public purse. How do we energize the citizens?
Thank you. I think what the commission did ahead of...
Sorry, you may have to quickly round up your thoughts so that...
Yeah, so what I think we need to activate is the traditional institutions. There are traditional rulers in those communities who could partner INEC to provide vigilante, to assist one or two security agencies that INEC may have hired. And if the traditional institutions mobilize support and ensure that there is a routine surveillance on that critical national asset, I think we can fend off, we can ward off this. Then there are police posts or police stations in each of the local government. Peradventure, the DPO in that local government can also assist by having a surveillance and then numbers that can be called, emergency numbers, by the security agencies. INEC have, even if it's one person, to say this is the number you call if you suspect a breach. But the traditional institution, the police, the DSS in local government offices, then the INEC needs to work collaboratively. The addition to that is that there is always security fund that is given provided by government into the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. I don't know what the budget is like for them for 2023.
All right, Jide, and besides, I'm sorry, Mr. Nick. I'm sorry, we don't have time. TVs, that can act as deterrents, for all these incidents. Let me thank Jide Ojo, Public Affairs Analyst, for your perspective. Thank you. And also Wing Commander Musa Salmanu, retired Development, Peace and Security Expert. We appreciate your contribution.
Thank you so much. Thank
Nick Dazang, former Director, Voter Education and Publicity, INEC. Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
Let's quickly take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with our second conversation.
What we face mostly now are flashes of cowardly attacks from the rump of groups that have been routed in one location or the other, moving to another to give the false impression that they are still strong. Our ultimate goal is to eliminate them altogether and restore total and lasting peace over every inch of the Nigerian soil. Sounding tall, we take it home. We are determined to ensure that every inch of the Nigerian soil is safe. That determination is foreigners in our midst. We shall continue to work for the peace of the nation and deter elements that constitute threats to the people. We shall bear the full powers of the government to secure every inch of our land. We shall not rest until peace is fully restored to Nigeria.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Every day in our country, senior citizens are discriminated against, disparaged, and treated with disdain by those who ought to respect them. We are all complicit in the way we have treated the elderly members of our society as institutions, families, or members of a shared society. Every time senior citizens get offered less than they deserve for the work they do because they are old, poor, and desperate, we are failing them. Senior citizen loses a child, and wow, they must be responsible for their death. Every time a senior citizen gets labeled a witch, is called mad, and shooed out of the way because they have no memory of where they were headed and look unkempt, we are failing them. We say, abeg, it all old, make it do die, make everybody for rest, to ailing parents, uncles and aunts. That's discrimination. That is neglect. When you see an old woman getting beat up and being accused of witchcraft, do not turn the other way. Stop and teach people that white hairs, wrinkles and hunchbacks are no evidence of witchcraft. Aging comes with a memory decline. Sometimes it's not out of place to have elderly people lose their way, forget details of their lives, and how to properly take care of themselves. When they get to this stage, they deserve your empathy, not scorn. Our ailing fathers, mothers, aunties and uncles are deserving of quality healthcare and peaceful transition. Make their last moments memorable. Senior citizens have paid their dues. They deserve your care. Stop all forms of discrimination against them today.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and US success, do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
The Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, welcomes the United Nations World Tourism Organization Secretary General and Ministers of Tourism, Culture and Arts from the UNWTO member states to the first UNWTO Global Conference on Linking Tourism, Culture and the Creative Industries. Date from 14th to 16th November 2022. Venue, National Theatre, Igomu, Lagos. Workshops and technical sessions starts on 14th November. Opening ceremony 15th November, time 10 a.m. A day with Nollywood, 16th November, time 10 a.m. Special guest, UNWTO Secretary General, Mr. Zurab Pololikashvili. Special guest of honor, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, President, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mrs. Lydia Shehu Jafia, MNI, Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture. Announcer.
Good morning, Nigeria. The United Nations World Tourism Organization Conference, which is scheduled to take place this year, will happen here in Nigeria. And the date is 14th to 16th of this month in Lagos. And though it will not be the first time Nigeria will be hosting, but this one promises to raise the bar, of course, on conversations on issues surrounding tourism and creative industry. Today, we shall be looking at what this year's conference will hold for Nigeria. But before we take on our guest, let's listen to this background report, and it's put together by our correspondent, Anthony Forson.
Nigeria got the nod to host the global conference last year in Cape Verde. At today's briefing, the minister said the United Nations World Tourism Organization officials that arrived in Nigeria for an on-the-spot assessment on the level of Nigeria's preparedness are satisfied.
The team inspected the National Theatre, some designated hotels, as well as the venue for the special program on Nollywood. The team equally met with the planning committee. I received a comprehensive brief from the team, and I'm pleased to inform you that the team is very satisfied with the level of Nigeria's preparedness to host the global conference.
Having enumerated the gains for Nigeria, he assured that Nigeria is safe for participants and visitors.
I want to say without any exaggeration, without any issue, that the current challenges in Nigeria is very exaggerated. And that's why we took the opportunity just 2 weeks ago, when a joint press conference, myself, the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Interior, Sub Police Affairs, to let the world know that yes, we have challenges, but we're on top of those challenges. We have challenges, but you will also agree with me that Lagos is probably one of the safest countries in the world. And when you look at what happens in other parts of the world, there's no going without its own crime.
The Global Conference on Tourism, Culture and the Creative Industry will hold in Lagos from the 14th to 16th of November.
All right, joining us now from our Lagos Network studios is the Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Honorable Minister, we're glad to have you this morning.
Good morning.
All right, Honorable Minister, let's begin by recalling what happened some months ago. The exact date now, I can't immediately remember. I recall we hosted you when Nigeria won the hosting right for this conference. You were quite excited, and the President of the Federal Republic was equally excited on account of the fact that, again, it was a clear recognition of Nigeria's place in global tourism. So the conference is right here, and in a couple of days it will be kicking off. How prepared are we to host the participants at this conference?
for giving me this platform. Nigeria is as ready as it can be for this particular, global conference. I think it's important for us to appreciate the fact that this global conference is the very first of its kind to be organized by the United Nations World Tourism Organization, which is a United Nations specialized agency responsible for ensuring, that there's responsible and sustainable, tourism all over the world. This is the first time in the history of the UNWTO there will be a global conference that will link tourism, culture, and the creative industry. As of today, we have received confirmation of participants from at least 57 countries, and all the continents of the world are coming, from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, from North America, and from South America. When we started, we were looking at something in the region of 500 participants. But as of Thursday, we've got confirmation from over 700 participants, 230 of whom are from outside Nigeria. Of course, you are aware that the venue of that global conference is the iconic National Theatre, which, to all intents and purposes, is actually Nigeria's iconic symbol for creativity and culture. I'm sure you are also aware, and I had the opportunity to come to this same platform to explain and express joy when the Bankers Committee decided to take on the renovation of the National Theatre by investing a whopping sum of $100 million. It is at that iconic, structure that we are holding the first ever United Nations World Tourism Organization Global Conference on linking tourism, culture, and the creative industry.
Thank you for recalling the iconic National Theatre. And indeed, earlier on I was telling my colleague Kingsley how it evokes nostalgic memories for me. It was there I cut my teeth in acting. But give us an insight into what kind of renovation work has gone into the National Theatre in preparation to receive these guests that are coming in from outside the country. In preparation to receive these guests that are coming in from outside the country.
Entire package is actually to have the entire National Theatre renovated and restored to a pristine condition. And in addition to also, have 4 verticals, that would make the entire and transform the entire area into what we call the Lagos Creative and Creative Art Center. Those 4 hubs will be one for information technology, another for films, another for music, and another for fashion. And these structures and verticals are meant to complement the entire creative sector. But as of today, what we have ready will be enough to hold this conference. We are going to have 2 parallel expert workshops during this conference. We're also going to have a day which we are devoting to Nollywood. We call it a day with Nollywood. We're also going to have a symposium on innovation and digitization And we are going to have exhibition on gastronomy, on fashion, and on art. A sizable proportion of the National Theatre is ready to receive our our guests, and is ready for all for most of the programs that will be hosted there. I was there last week. I will be there again tomorrow for the final handing over of the portions of the National Theatre that will be ready for this, global conference. Of course, we are not saying that the entire National Theatre is ready, but work is at the very advanced stage, and we have the assurance of the consultants and the contractors and the financiers that the entire National Theatre and the 4 verticals I've spoken about would be ready for commissioning and handing over before the end of this administration.
Thank you very much. Tell us something about the expected outcomes of this conference.
What we expect to happen at the end of this conference is that there will be heightened awareness as to the link between tourism, culture, and the creative industry. In addition, it's meant to actually showcase Nigerians' cultural, tourism, and creative industry assets. I believe that this will be the best opportunity so far to show the world the prowess and the strength of Nigeria in the area of culture, in the area of tourism, and in the area of creative industry. As you are well aware, renovating the National Theatre is like recreating a hub for the entire creative industry, whereby you are going to have a befitting platform for concerts, for films, for stage plays, for exhibitions. So we believe that the decision of the UNWTO to hold this first ever global conference on linking tourism with culture and creative industry in Nigeria is a testimony of the recognition of Nigeria as a leading country in the creative industry in Africa, and that finally the world has now recognized the contribution of Nigeria to music, to film, to gastronomy, and to fashion. And of course, we all know what happened when we hosted the Festac, in 1977, and now it became a catalyst for the growth of the industry and of course of the economy, itself. Like I said, we're expecting about 700 participants, and about 500 or so of them are from Nigeria. They cut across all the various sectors of, the industry. And like I said, it is the best opportunity so far for Nigeria to actually exhibit its strength in the creative industry, in tourism and culture. And of course, you all know that the entire world today is looking at tourism, culture and creative industry, not just to create more jobs, but also to create wealth for the people and also for sustainable economic and social development.
Honourable Minister, thank you. You've already hinted at what some of the items that we will be marketing at the conference, and you talked about a day with Nollywood and gastronomy. I would like for you to, in terms of content, just give us again an insight into what to expect. For instance, a day with Nollywood. What are the things that we will be seeing?
A day with Nollywood will be a day where there will be, interaction between, producers, directors, actors and actresses, content makers, and stakeholders in the industry. It is a day that we are devoting completely to examine and look at areas where we can not just to celebrate, our successes, in Nollywood or Kannywood, but also look at how we can better improve, the industry. So we are going to have experts, we're going to have stakeholders in the industry with, the actors, with the producers, with the investors, because the entire film industry cuts across the gamut of the economy. So it's going to be a full day devoted to different aspects of filmmaking, marketing, production, and the like.
Honorable Minister, I want to return still to the expected outcomes of this conference, and in doing so, I also want to assume that there is a draft agenda for the conference. So, what are the key issues that the conference will be looking at? Because this is a big ticket linkage that is framed around the conference, namely tourism, culture, and creative industry. What are the issues? Is it, for instance, to say, look, the conference could resolve or might resolve to pursue, say, a visa regime for cross-border movement of persons who are involved in the creative industry, of persons who are involved in cultural exhibitions, or something. The reason I'm asking this, for instance, is that I imagine, of course, you're also Minister of Culture and Tourism, that at present there are probably impediments to the movement of creative operatives. So would this then be an issue to focus on at the conference? I'm sure you know this, that for a sport like golf, for instance, airlines do not charge for golfing equipment because golfing equipment can be pretty heavy. But wherever you're going, if you're going for an international tournament, nobody charges you for excess luggage on golf. So are we looking at some of this nitty-gritty that could then be, as it were, a further trigger for the growth of the tourism, culture, and creative industry?
Firstly, no doubt the agenda accommodates exactly what you're talking about and even more. Like I said, there will be 2 expert workshops. There will also be a symposium on innovation and digitization. At the same time, there will also be, like I explained, a day with Nollywood. There will also be exhibitions. But in those expert workshops, in particular, this is where issues that you have mentioned, which is what are the challenges we face in Africa, especially, and globally, in the world of tourism. I remember about a month or so ago in Arusha, this same matter came up, and we identified as one of the major obstacles to tourism in Africa in particular is the lack of connectivity. Today, if you want to travel from Central African Republic to the Democratic Republic of Congo, it will take you between 15 hours and 20 hours. And you either go through Europe, Morocco, or another West African country. Whereas a direct flight from Central African Republic to the Democratic Republic of Congo takes less than 2 hours. A month ago, I led the Nigerian team to Arusha. And it took me 25 hours to get to Arusha because I had to fly first to Istanbul. I had a layover of about 10 hours in Istanbul before I flew finally to Arusha. Whereas a direct flight from Arusha to Abuja is 4.5 hours. Now, these are issues that are going to be discussed in addition to the issue of visa regime, because we believe that these are issues that have militated against, tourism and economic growth in Africa. And this is why we support the agenda of the African Union, referring to, this single airline program, a situation whereby there will be connectivity between African countries. As we speak today, only 19% of African countries are linked directly. So we quite identified the issues militating against tourism in terms of connectivity, in terms of visa regime, and other issues. And this is what will be discussed at those expert workshops.
All right, Honorable Minister, I don't know, but this is just off question. How many countries from Africa will be participating? That's just one. But my main question will center on the thematic priorities for the UN WTO. And those are to make the sector very competitive, and by the way to achieve that will be to make tourism as a policy priority. But for us to achieve that, we need to be smarter. We need to make tourism smarter by digitizing and using innovation. So I'm asking the Honorable Minister, do we have the capacity to leverage the outcomes for this conference such that we position the sector to be competitive?
Claire, let me first address the first question. How many African countries are coming? I cannot say how many African countries are coming, but for Thursday, there were 57 countries coming from all over the world. Your other question as to whether we can leverage technology. Oh, yes. And I think this is an area where Nigeria leads the whole of Africa, which is in the area of innovation and technology to enhance tourism, culture, and creative industry. When we were at Arusha, I was pleasantly surprised and I was excited to learn that while we might not be too strong in destination tourism in Nigeria, that Nigeria led in terms of direct, foreign investment in the area of innovation and technology to enhance, all aspects of life, including tourism. And that Nigeria actually attracted a whopping $3.5 billion investment in 2020 alone, in the area of innovation and technology. And that is why we can see that we are devoting a whole symposium to digitization and innovation at this conference. Now, you see, many factors would promote tourism. Infrastructure is very important. Stability is very important. Security is very important. And these are issues that always come up for discussion at every UNWTO meeting. But this particular conference, I must say, is a hybrid between high-level, discussions on issues such as connectivity, interconnectivity, visa regime, infrastructure. But at the same time, this is the first time we are actually merging real performance, such as activities like a day with Nollywood, exhibition of gastronomy, command performance, gala night, all in one single conference, because you want to see the link between the theory and the practice.
Okay, you just touched on an aspect. I was going to ask you about the side events. You mentioned the exhibition. What range of products would be on exhibition, apart from the gastronomy? We can break that down for some of our viewers. Gastronomy just refers to food. So, so we imagine, as we said, and you have been our guest on Good Morning Nigeria on a number of occasions, that the range of food that Nigeria offers is unmatched anywhere in the world. So what happens during the course of this conference with regard to exhibition relating, for instance, to food and to fashion? And then other side attractions. Can interested members of the public come around?
Thank you, Kingsley. Yes, the gastronomy is a big word for food. You are right. But we that's one area of our economy that is probably growing very fast, faster than many of us, appreciate. I was at a function recently, and I was pleasantly surprised to know that Nigerians are so resourceful that the ofada soup now has many varieties. There's pineapple, there's orange, there's coconut ofada soup. And there are some young men and women who are making a lot of, money and creating jobs in that area. So these are issues that are coming to be exhibited. These are some of the items to be exhibited at that during the exhibition. Also, fashion. Immediately after the during the COVID-19 pandemic, my ministry commissioned a study to see and know the impact of COVID-19 on the creative industry. As you are aware, one of the most affected industries are, during the COVID-19 has actually been the creative industry, because with no movement, no gathering, you couldn't have concerts, you couldn't have films, film shows, you couldn't have cultural, displays. So when we did this, commissioned this survey, the committee was led by Ali Baba and all many, serious stakeholders in the industry. When the report came back, we were amazed that while music and film might be the flagship of Nigeria's, creative industry, that in terms of revenues, in terms of employment, that fashion tops both of them 10 times. For instance, according to the report, while we get about 170 billion revenue from films and about 300 billion naira revenue from music, the fashion industry, the revenue attributable to the fashion industry, it was actually 2 trillion, and that makeups and makeup and beauty also has a revenue of 1.2 trillion naira, and that in Lagos every month 25,000 pieces of garments are sold and bought, and that it employs thousands of people. So this is why it's important for us to have this exhibition in fashion. But what really excites me more is those structures that I spoke about, those verticals that I spoke about that will complement the National Theatre. Because those verticals, one for fashion, one for music, one for IT, and the other for films, is actually going to take care of the business end of this industry. See, it's for one thing for you to be talented, fantastic actor, fantastic producer. But then what about the marketing aspect of it? We also realize that many of our products, especially in the area of, in fashion, that we need better training, we need better finishing, and that most of our, fashion designers don't have the opportunity to be trained properly. So these verticals will provide those missing links. And in the case of the film and music industry, we are going to have full-blown studios, and you now don't need to go to South Africa or go to Brazil to shoot your films or to record your music or to edit your music. So this is why the entire conference and the entire development in the creative industry excites me a lot.
Just before we wind down this conversation, I just like to ask a question on the policy priority, which according to the UNTO is very critical for sustaining this sector. Although, of course, we have seen a major shift, from what used to be in terms of giving attention to the tourism and culture sector, championed by your very good self, Honorable Minister. But I'm also concerned, or as much as other Nigerians now, about sustaining this policy if we do have any.
We clearly have a policy, and the UNWTO has a policy. It's a 10-point agenda for African tourism, and one of the action plans is actually to encourage member states to engage, promote, and encourage partnership with within the 3 closely linked sectors, which is tourism, culture, and the creative industry. And one of the things we are doing today is actually first writing to both the AU agenda and the UNWTO agenda, which is encouraging member states to organize regional, national, and even international programs that will key into the AU Agenda 2030 for Africa, which is using tourism, creative industry, and culture as a catalyst for growth of the economy and also for social inclusion. UNWTO, it's very serious about this, and we are glad and we are fortunate that we are one of the first countries in the world that would really interpret and bring into action, some of the 10-point action plan of the UNWTO. But I would not want to end this conversation without expressing our gratitude to the Bankers Committee, especially the Governor of Central Bank, because the ingestion of this $100 million US into the National Theatre has been a game changer for the industry. I mean, we all know for how many years this iconic structure has been abandoned. And when you look at the $100 million, it probably represents more than 10 years of budgetary allocation that the Ministry of Information and Culture will ever have to develop that, iconic structure, which is also our cultural and our creative, identity. So I want to take the opportunity to really thank Mr. President, who made it possible for this partnership between the private and public sector, which is unprecedented, and also thank the Bankers Committee, especially the Governor of Central Bank, for making it work. This conference will be declared open by Mr. President himself, and in attendance will be the United Nations World Tourism Organization Secretary General himself, and the ministers and senior officials of culture, tourism, and arts from every part of the world. We are going to also have experts. We are going to have educational institutions, all that will be present at this World Conference. So I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody who has made this possible.
Well, Honorable Minister, we'd like to thank you for being part of our discussion this morning, but you didn't specifically also thank the Nigerian Television Authority for providing the platform for you. For you, I know that, of course, we are part of the Federal Ministry of Information. We appreciate your being with us today. I wish you the very best in hosting this meeting conference in Lagos, the creative hub of our country. My name is Kingsley Osadola. I would like to thank you for tuning in to Good Morning Nigeria for today. Join us again on Monday, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Look after yourselves.
And I'm Claire Adilabu Abdul Razak. We always urge you to join us in the fight against rape and rapists. To have a great weekend.
"24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International, your window to the world.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Then a better person, better boy. I didn't talk about every time.
I just collect my phone. Smash my phone for ground right before my eye. Come on, this thing chop out.
Not you go. Not you go. Not go chop me.
He will beat you and he's still alive.
Continue, I'm hearing you.
How did they beat me with anything where you feel? They beat me with belt. Anything where you see, they beat me. He beat me one day so bad. He carrying a laptop, throw out for my body. Hit me for stomach. That's why I lose that pregnancy. Now rush me go hospital.
If a place now, are you sure that the same God is? You should send up another person.
God is not evil. God is not devil. God is not evil. God is papa not devil. Join now. You see this college where you see? I don't say go don't brainwash all of me. Go don't get nice. You go act like innocent person. But Collins na devil. Na only me wey don't live with Collins go tell una the truth. So na the same Collins wey you see, so na him what they talk about.
Oh. Continue, I dey hear you.
Oga Chidi, Mama you be o.
Of course, I'm a man. Talk to me.
With that pain, where I take lose pregnancy, Collins go still sleep with me.
You allow him to still sleep with you?
If I no gree na beat him. On top of this one, I still get another belle. That is still Collins still beat that belle come out for my body.
Don't fear him. Don't fear that much. If you come here, he will not do anything to you.
Oga Chidi, Collins beat me be say na neighbor rush me go hospital. Now the hospital where I did 3 years of beating. I begged the nurse. I say I no wan die. May she help me. Then she can't give me transport money. Give me address to make her dey come Abuja. 4 years now I don't dey Abuja. Auntie Tegi, I dey Abuja 4 years. I no hear from Collins. I no hear from my family. Only for me to see Collins here now.
Have no fear. Have no peace. Collins or whatever he call himself. He cannot do anything. But we are here for you now. We are family. You know,
Fefe, it's okay.
Cello.
It is not a matter of crying. We have all heard you. I understand. Whoa, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Everything now.
It's okay.
Clean your eye. Clean your
Whoa. It's not a matter of crying. Crying is not what will solve this problem. You hear me? Hey, you will have to face him. You will not cry and you will not hide from him. He has told you, before he will come to you, he will have to pass through us. Sorry. If he says he has fire on his head, we will bring it down. Do you understand me? He does not. He didn't pay a dime on your head. He has no right. Shoot the mommy. Wipe your tears. Alright, Coco. You have us.
Madam Cheki, did I hear you say he doesn't have he does not even have a left. He's the talking of society. See, if you call him, if you want to come, in fact, let him pass through us. We are ready. Over here. Or some pay dime. Hey.
Don't see where I do big for Collins. That was in the past.
Yeah.
Next time,
You said you have to be strong and very like I will lock him up. But you have to be bold and strong. Don't let him think that he's talking to me. No, he's strong.
Thank you. Okay. Let's show more.
How have you been, my love? Sorry, I went.
Where are you bringing that to?
What's that?
Look!
Do you even know how it was produced?
Madam, we know things are hard. But it is our people that say health is wealth. Don't compromise on quality. JD! Oh, I know there's a reason why we are friends.
Use power oil. It is triple filtered. It contains omega-6 and omega-9. It's fortified with vitamin A. Plus it comes in different packs and sizes, so you can afford it without breaking the bank.
My people know the importance of making the right choice.
Power oil, hey, power oil.
It's scary, isn't it? Putting yourself out there, ignoring the voices telling you can't. Will you step aside, or will you go for it? After all, what's the worst that could happen? So, keep trying. Don't stop. Believe in yourself and go for it. Color Data, available in many variants to nourish you every step of the way.
Collins, stay away from me. I not be your wife. I take go beg you. No come close to me.
I just stay away from you.
Yeah.
Why? See, you are my wife, and I have every right to be where you are.
Collins, I am not your property. 1 naira you no pay for my head.
Head.
Yes.
You get head.
Yes.
I give you life. So you are my property.
I know be your property. Why does that not be your property? I don't pay you. You don't pay 1 naira for my head. Who you pay to?
So I should stay away from you.
Yeah.
I should stay away from
No.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. When this girl, they tell us how to, everybody believe her. Me, I take your side. I say not lie. But the thing when you just do, nah. I did disappointed.
No.
You are disappointed?
Yes. So.
Why?
Why?
See, I have not done anything.
What did you not do wrong?
Yeah. You know me very well.
Uh-huh.
I have not done anything wrong. Look, I don't know what you have told you, but you need to listen to my side of the story so that you know the truth.
Fine. When you do your story, talk am. Talk am.
You have fear. You see this girl?
Mm-hmm.
I gave her.
Liar.
I did everything for her. Even when everybody abandoned her, I was there for her. Even when her stupid father left them. Don't even call the man stupid. Respect yourself. You were not there. Respect yourself. Yeah, do this. As I talk. But when their stupid father left them, I was there. I gave her everything.
Okay, I will look at her. Send me back.
One day, she suddenly woke up in the morning and saw some of her village neighbors for city here. She befriended them. You know, NTA. She started trying to spend time with them. They spend time with them. Come begin, they go treat her father. They treat her father house. Why?
Wait, Mr. Collins, I think you not pay. Because, oh, hear me, I don't understand what you're saying. To make her to straighten her father.
He said it to him, but I'm not supposed to get any friend.
Yeah.
I mean, I should get with him alone.
Yes. You know what? Because I took care of her, I gave her everything. What did she want for this life? Which is, you see this a coconut head. I changed her to make her say a good thing come out from that head. Where they did when I do all this thing for her? Where were they? And now suddenly I promised her. She started looking for me. See, I own her in all aspects.
That is important. You want to be her God. You want to be her God. You know, I don't know who you are or who you think you are, but it will not work.
I don't want you to know me, rather.
Collins.
Mama.
This girl here is down by herself. They are good sitting in this country.
Hey.
This woman was down by herself. She will be a property. No, by the day, play. You hear me tell her. When you want chop, you bread, you carry and you chop her. And when you don't want chop, you keep her. This girl don't be like that.
See, Mama. You know, say I respect you well.
Yeah.
You know, be like all these people. With the you are talking.
Yeah.
I'm talking, you're talking. Oh, you know what would have happened? Mama.
So it is true.
Oh.
You keep your own one side though. Mama, just miss you. Mama, as I dey talk, you reason pass all these people with they. And as you don't do so, you supposed to know say, person who don't spare it like this for you. Mama, now me get that much. What did I never do for this life? Do for her. The air where she dey breathe sef na me. Everything for life. Now me for this, you need to see as me before.
Shut your dirty, shut it! Shut it!
Shut it.
Shut it!
Try to stop me when
Shut up! Wait, man? I get a man like this. I don't get this. I don't get this. Is this how you're supposed to treat a woman who has lost 2 pregnancies from you?
Oh.
What can you?
She even told you.
Yeah.
Okay. Woman, let me tell you something.
You do not excuse me. You do not address me like that.
You be man?
You address me properly.
Are you a man?
I am Segilola.
Oh, yeah, Segilola.
Madam
Segi.
Dubai.
Segi.
You have no rights to
Okay.
address me anyhow.
Then let me address you rightly and teach you something. If something happens between a man and his wife, it is life between them.
Oh, who is your wife?
Oh, you should be thinking something. And maybe I think what I'm thinking now. That I married a foolish, useless woman. She has nothing. That she won't go in public and has been saying secret things that happen between us to the public. You see?
Man. You want to say man? Then your wife is faithless. Hey.
Okay. So do well to tell you this.
Modino, I will tell you one thing. I know be Colin's wife. 1 naira never pay. Go there. I know be your wife. I will never be your wife. I can't be your wife. Yes.
So,
Well,
You have not paid the time on her head.
you were not there.
Have you paid the time on her head? So you tell us.
You were not there.
Have you paid the time on her head?
Okay.
If you have not, with the way you are behaving like this, you have no right.
See, you dey point and they point and they point and like person wants their family land. Make I tell you something. Mama, look, now you are happy. This thing, you are fighting for you.
I'm telling you, say, this woman love your property. I will never allow you to treat that as well.
Stop me! Stop me! See, it's my property and I will take her from this place. I will take. This must see, do that again. Go ask questions. Get up. I go. You see, woman, what that? You know that.
Please. Go. See, you see? You don't see it. Like smoke. You go penetrate, come out. You don't know.
This college, why I said to start with that person. Now we have to do something.
Mommy, I don't want to say I see it, but I showed it. From the very moment I saw that man, I was that man. He's so big.
You are very. Mommy, we need to do something. They're paying order.
Mommy, see. In as much as I don't like Molina, any man trying to do that. Mommy, I'll make sure that man should be more trying at cemetery.
This is the man. See my boy. Better boy. Better pikin. Thank you very much. Go do something.
It's scary, isn't it? Putting yourself out there, ignoring the voices telling you can't. Will you step aside? Or will you go for it? After all, what's the worst that could happen? So, keep trying. Don't stop. Believe in yourself and go for it. Our data available in many variants to nourish you every step of the way. Welcome to the Glow Festival of Joy. It's a celebration like no other, with prizes like no other. 20 new houses to be won, 24 brand new cars, 200 sewing machines, 100 generators, 1,000 rechargeable fans. It's spraying hitting our prices this season in the Glow Festival of Joy promo. Dial *611# to enter and grab your share of prizes in this celebration of a lifetime. It can only be Glow. Glow Festival of Joy promo. Dial *611# now.
I'm checking. When did you come back? Because I know it's like you. They are trying each other to be flying above. You're welcome. How are you? The boss is here. You're back. What do you have?
Sorry, no, but so I will meet you for back. Okay.
What is it? Okay, you come cry. You get him back. Mr. Collins, yes. Ah! Finally, we have caught up with you. You are under arrest, Mr. Collins. Awesome. He's a woman. I'm innocent. When you came in and you saw how they were maltreating me, so they said that they were talking to my wife, trying to convince her to take a restraining order against me. It's okay. Explain the cause. Sorry. That's the best move for me. So that you won't kill her as you kill to her.
This man, I don't get it back because where it is. This man, no
You knew when they reported this case and you ran away. Mr. Police.
Yeah, no man. No.
Mother, you keep quiet. Get me four of your men right now.
What you do? I want, man.
Four of them now.
Yeah, yeah. Mama, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Come on, please, come down.
Despite attempts in some circles to downplay the achievements of this administration, I have no scintilla of doubt that history will be fairer and posterity will be kind to us. Those whose streets have been shortened and smoothened by good roads and bridges will remember the government that built those roads and bridges. Those who use the modern terminals at our airports will remember who built them. Those who ride on modern trains along Lagos Ibadan, Abuja Kaduna, and Itakpe Warri will not forget those who made that happen.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Bonny Island, where our NNNG is situated, is one of the places where very vast resources are produced into the economy of Nigeria in terms of natural gas. But for centuries, this place, without what you see now, there has never been a road into Bonny from Odo. This is in Rivers State. There has never been a road for centuries. This is the island, Opobo area, where the famous King Jaja Opobo used to dominate centuries ago. This government is building a road and bridges of 39 kilometers combined into that island. And you will see the bridge slowly being launched. This will be finished sometime when we have left late in 2023.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, reflect, and verify information before sharing it. Be a good social media user. Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source and use social media responsibly for a better Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency.
A popular saying in Nigeria goes that at the time a cockerel matures, it begins to crow to tell the world the time of day. This makes a crucial premise for all of us who have come of age, the youths, to lend our voices to a nation set to flip a new page, like the chance to vote and be voted for. Whether being a youth, a woman, or a person with disability, and to do this in unity. And to anyone who hasn't been confident enough to exercise these rights, I beg, step out of the dark and come into the light. I mean, your participating in the electoral process is significant, a moment to behold, like that cock crowing in the morning to tell about a difference. No sit down look. Do something that will count today and be in tomorrow's books. The elections are coming. Register for and get your voter's card, your power card. As a citizen, and especially as a young lady or lad, lend your voice, use your voice, talk, say, and tell the world the time of day.
The beauty of democracy rests in the power the system has given to the teeming population to elect an eligible candidate of their choice for any political office. But the right to vote is not a license to kill. Democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people, where majority carries the vote. It is not a do-or-die affair. Say no to violence. Your weapon at the poll is your permanent voter's card, not a dagger. Your future is in your hands. You have the right to lead. Don't cause trouble. Vote wisely.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Life is like a story we have to tell. Life is like a music we have to sing. Life is like that sweet melody from the sea we have to listen to. Life is like a melody we have to sing along. It's African literature on NTA, Africa's largest television network. I am Nena Basi. Poetry is our focus on this edition. Let's trace it from where it started.
Literature is subdivided into drama, prose, and poetry. Poetry is the writing that formulates a concentrated imaginative awareness of experience in language, chosen and arranged to create a specific emotional response through meaning, sound, and rhythm. It conveys a thought, describes a scene, or tells a story in a concentrated, lyrical, which means making. Poetry is as old as history and present wherever religion is present. Possibly the primal and primary form of language itself. Perhaps, in some hypothetical beginning of things, it was the only way of using language, or simply was language too cut, prose being a derivative and younger rival. Both poetry and language are fashionably thought to have belonged to ritual in early agricultural societies, and poetry in particular has been claimed arose at first in the form of magical spells recited to the Epic of Gilgamesh dates from 3rd millennium BCE in Sumer, Mesopotamia, now Iraq, and was written in cuneiform script on clay tablets and later on papyrus. The efforts of ancient thinkers to determine what makes poetry distinctive as a form and what distinguishes good poetry from bad resulted in poetics, the study of aesthetics of poetry. Poetry is often separated into lines on a page in a process known as lineation. These lines may be based on the number of metrical feet or may emphasize a rhyming pattern at the end of lines. It seems clear that people take their cue from the rhyming pattern, reading poetry aloud in a very different voice from habitual voice, possibly because, as John Benson said, poetry speaketh somewhat above a mortal mouth. Lines of poetry are often organized into stanzas. A stanza is a group of lines related to the same thought or topic, similar to a paragraph in prose. First, collection of 2 lines is a couplet or disc. 3 lines, a triplet or tercet. 4 lines, a quatrain, and so on. Poetry comes in different forms to include sonnet, haiku, elegy, ode, limerick, villanelle, epic, and narrative poetry, among others. In summary, poetry is the way it is because it looks that way, and it looks that way because it sounds that way, and vice versa.
A couple of literary critics and scholars like Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Wordsworth, and many others looked at poetry from different postulations.
In the 4th century BC, Socrates defined poetry as inspirational. His argument is that poets are inspired by some sort of muse in order to come about their sublime works, and that poets do not write out of their own wisdom or imagination, but they do a whole lot, giving certain sort of inspiration, just like the seer and prophets. But his students, Plato, subsequently upturned that notion, contending that poetry is mimetic. So Plato considered poets within the classical period as breeders of falsehood. But to Aristotle, poetry is an imitation of language, rhythm, and harmony. That definition embraces the pleasure of poetry. Given all of these debates raised by Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, the classical discourse on art laid the foundational basis upon which various definitions of poetry was forged.
You're still on to African literature on the NTA. Come with me on a journey to the world of African poetry.
African poetry has expressed many concerns which makes them unique to the understanding of African ethos and traditions, therefore can be defined as
African poetry in the broader sense would mean the use of lyrical sounds and to depict experiences of Africa and Africans by African poets. So if we're looking at the history or the background of the African poetry, we'll trace it down to folk songs in African societies that were communal owned. So in the Yoruba societies, in the Hausa societies, in the Arabic, Bantu, and Gikuyu in Kenya. So these songs, it could be dirge they sing during funerals. It could be all of those, and those classify under poetry in the pre-colonial African times. And in the with the influence of the Western society, which brings us to colonial and post-colonial period, there is now a combination of both the African folklore traditions and the Western influences. And so we now saw we now saw poetry that could be written on page and also performed.
African poetry is a complicated concept to define. However, it is a form of expression written by Africans to celebrate African experience. All right. It is also a form of expression that delineates African cultural heritage, values, and cultural norms. It is an aesthetic overview that encapsulates and appreciates and also represents African worldview, which culminates into African thoughts. It's important also to understand that African poetry is that genre that explores African experiences.
In Africa, poetry has evolved with varied themes and styles peculiar to each period.
There's been an increasingly differentiation in themes and concerns. While the first generation African poets were preoccupied with colonialism and the African oppression of the whites, you'll find out that younger and younger generations, some now focused on post-colonial issues like government. You find Mamman Vatsa with his pidgin poetry under the Babangida regime, and then you find so many others. And then if we look at the millennium, you find out that there's been a combination of both the societal and the individual. And so a lot of the poetry you see around now does not just focus on government. It talks about self. It talks about self-discovery. It talks about a lot of things, a lot of themes that are relevant to the young population. And I think we have some of the youngest generation of poets currently in the African scene, and than we have ever had.
Were to explore individual themes, so they thematized within their works individual experiences. So they left the boundaries of the pioneer poets who were preoccupied with nationalistic tendencies and negritude tendencies and all of that. So these writers were unique in their own style, and their works were regarded more seriously because even in the academic parlance, they were celebrated because their themes were peculiar and serious. Subsequently, we had what you call the disillusionment phase, where most countries in Africa had come out of colonialism and they were independent, and the expectation, of course, was that independence would bring Africans the succor they needed, the so-called El Dorado, which will eventually create a society or a continent of utopia. And most African leaders were implicated in corruption, dictatorial tendencies, and all manner of bad governance and all of that. From the disillusionment phase, we have the Civil War phase. This phase was between 1967 to 1970, when some African countries were agog with all manner of civil wars, particularly Nigeria. Nigeria experienced that, where we had the Igbos trying to secede from Nigeria, and the federal government of the day fought with every resilience to keep the country as one. So there were writers also in that platform who wrote about the perils of the Civil War and the implications within the continent. So from there, we had what you call the apartheid phase. Predominantly, this took place in South Africa. With apartheid, South African poets began to interrogate the racial polemics in South Africa and how blacks in South Africa were relegated to the background, and the fact that blacks were unable to share the same or similar social amenities with the Caucasian South Africans and all of that. And so we also have the phase of the Niger Delta and Echo phase. This also took place within the 1990s, all right, where Niger Delta poets in Nigeria began to treat the issues of environmental degradation and the spillage of oil within that terrain. So from there, you now have the contemporary phase, all right, or the contemporary poetry, or what you call contemporary phase. Now, within this platform were poets who were also poised with the issues of globalization, issues of modernity, issues of global economy and its implications within the contemporary society. Of course, their themes were similar with the themes of poets in the modernist age.
It is one of the most difficult genre of literature because of its compact structure, use of symbols, literary devices, and complex diction.
Poetry is meant to be concise, is meant to be condensed. So a lot of things said in few words, in few lines. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of meanings are packed in a little piece of poem. But yes, there are persons that poetry where when you read them, you have to consult the dictionary or even the encyclopedia. But there are also an increasing number of poets who are making it very simple, especially the spoken word. You find that because they want you to understand what they are saying immediately, so they make it simple enough for you to understand while trying to still keep it artistic.
For more appreciation, poetry has moved from the pages of books to the stage.
The newer generation is finding different ways to also get poetry across, which brings us to the question of spoken word poetry or performance poetry on stage. We have several names. Some of the prominent ones: DK Chukwumeje, who does poetry for stage, and then you see Titilope Shonuga, you see Efe Paul Azino, and so many of them, and so you see that these poems, while they can sit on page and bear the appellation of poetry, they can also be performed to audiences. And a lot of times we find out that the audiences they perceive the one performed to them better than the one they'll have to read, and so they sit down and watch you perform, and then they feel it better.
Like other literary genre, poetry has its own challenges in Africa.
Challenges. You also find out that just like poetry in every other part of the world, in terms of selling in book forms, it doesn't sell as much as the prose or even the drama would sell, because some persons don't find it interesting to buy a poetry collection, sit down and read.
Major challenge facing African poetry is the problem of poor reading culture. This has been with Africans, and I want to believe that the reason may not be far-fetched from the socio-political and economic realities within the society. People are pressured to bend their nerves and burn their time to eke out a living, and so on a daily basis, and as a result of that, people hardly have the time to pour through literary works. There are a lot of literary works written by Africans, not just poetry, but in general, there are quite a number of works written by Africans, but Africans hardly have the time to look through them. Like I said, it is not far-fetched from the economic realities Africans are faced with.
How has African poetry fared?
African poetry is still emerging because not everyone knows about poetry. Not everyone knows about poetry in terms of written poetry or oral poetry or performative poetry. But I believe that African poetry will still go far because poets are emerging, more poets are trying to be experimental with the genre, and I believe that there's hope for African poetry.
Poetry in Africa, like the other genre, over the years has evolved to become a masterpiece. Art composition is next.
Apple and the Hammer, a poem by Kofi Awono, which captures the cultural clash, especially between the Western and African cultures. Kofi Awono, a Ghanaian poet, born in Weitu in 1953, studied in Ghana, England, and United States of America. A university lecturer, has represented his country on the international scene in various capacities. He died in the 2013 terrorist attack at the Westgate Shopping Mall in Nairobi, Kenya. Just as the anvil and hammer work to shape a new piece of metal, the poet believes that rather than discard the African culture, Western ideas could be used to shape and refine African traditions to create a new Africa. He pleads for a synergy of both cultures for a better Africa. Poetic devices used include metaphor, imagery, oxymoron, antithesis, alliteration, and many others. Things highlighted include clash of cultures, resolution of the clash through cultural synergy, and revival of the African culture.
Cuts between the anvil and hammer in the forging house of a new life, transforming the bonds that delivered me into the joy of a new song. The trappings of the past, tender and tenor, woven with the fiber of sea salt and washed in the blood of the goats in the fetish huts, are linked with the flimsy glories of those streets. The jargon of a new dialectic comes with the charisma of the perpetual search on the outlaw's hill. Through the old days for us, our fathers, that we can wear them under our new garments after we waste ourselves in the whirlpool of many rivers estuary. We hear their songs and rumors every day. They tell me to ignore this. We use snatches from their tunes. Make ourselves new flags and anthems as we lift high the banner of our land and listen to the reverberation of our songs in the splash and moan of the sea.
tradition has indeed nurtured its unique heritage despite various influences. If you just joined us, this is African Literature on the NTA. On our literary device segment today, we will learn how to correct any ill practice around us without being offensive.
Satire. It is an artistic form, often humorous, chiefly literary and dramatic, in which human or individual vices, follies, abuses, or shortcomings are held up to censor by means of ridicule, derision, irony, parody, caricature, and other methods, sometimes with an intent to inspire social reforms. Types of satire. Horatian satire. It is comical, mostly social commentary. It is meant to poke fun at a person or situation in an entertaining way. For example, The Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. Juvenalian satire. This is dark rather than comical. It is meant to speak truth to power. Manipuan satire. This casts borrowed judgment on a particular belief. For example, racism. It can be comic and light, and can also be stinging as Juvenalian satire. For example, Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventure in Wonderland. Critical tools in using satire. Irony. This helps in the use of words to say the opposite of what you mean. Hyperbole. This helps to over-exaggerate a feature in the figure targeted in satire. Allegory. It helps to play with surface and hidden meanings. Understatement. Helps to pick on one aspect of the subject to underestimate for comic effect. Examples of satire. Political cartoons. These are often seen in print and online media. Political stunts. These are elaborate enactments mainly on politicians or political figures. Importance of satire include: satire offers us a comic way to approaching some problems in the society that seem so big to confront directly. Satire holds a mirror to the flaws of society, helping people think critically about things they might otherwise just take for granted.
Satire affords us the tool to pass our message vividly to the society in different ways. Time now to take a dose from the numerous wise sayings Africa is blessed with. Till we come your way again, remain guided and safe. Bye for now.
NTA, you can't beat the rich.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Together, no matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. Let's stop fighting each other. Let us live as one. It doesn't matter where you come from, your tribe or religion, man, woman or child. It doesn't matter who you are, but Nigerian first. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. How can we develop? We're always in crisis. Families have become refugees in their country. No matter our differences, show some understanding. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
This is the network service of the NTA.
We are in the 11th month of the year. In the Northern Hemisphere, usually considered the last month of autumn. This is the time when the mornings are cold and the afternoons are hot, and the rains are no more to wet the atmosphere. But you no need to worry, as we'll make November a month to remember, packed with buzzing entertainment packages. The unfortunate news of the death of the son of the 30 BG crooner Davido has thrown the entertainment industry into mourning, and some celebrities have shown their sympathy in different ways. E-News got that covered. We are in a time when unity is paramount. On the show, we have a private screening of a movie that promotes national unity and deals with disharmony among tribes. Also, we have an icon who has graced the television screen for years with her radiant beauty and eloquence, turned 60. In her words, 60 is the new 20. This and more will be on our package today. Welcome to Clicklight on Africa's largest television network, NTA. I am Butwell Miller. I will be riding solo on the program. Let's get started.
He has his own family and peculiarities.
The entertainment news first up. The Big Brother Niger Season 7th housemates Adekunle Olopade and Doyin Davids are set to host the 2022 World Cup conference holding in Qatar. This was stated on their Instagram